My phone vibrated in the middle of the night, cutting through the silence of the apartment. The message said a door had opened somewhere in my apartment building. Then another message appeared, and another. Different floors, different apartments. At first, I thought it was a glitch in the building security system, or someone playing a stupid prank with automated alerts. But when the message appeared with my floor on it, I stopped laughing. And when the next one mentioned my apartment number, I realized something was already standing in the hallway outside my door. The first message arrived just after midnight. My phone vibrated on the table beside the bed, the short WhatsApp tone cutting through the quiet apartment. I picked it up without thinking much about it. Messages came late sometimes. Someone awake in another time zone, someone sending a link, someone asking a question they could have asked in the morning. But when I looked at the screen, the notification preview read, "Door opened, 3rd floor." I opened the message. The chat contained only that one line. The message came from a number I didn't recognize. No name, no profile picture, just the number itself. For a moment I stared at it, trying to understand what it was supposed to be. It looked like the kind of automated alert a security system might send. Except our building didn't work that way. The cameras in the corridors were used for surveillance. If something actually happened, the administration contacted residents later, by email or a notice in the lobby. And I didn't live on the 3rd floor. I live on the 7th. I set the phone back on the table. The apartment grew quiet again. The radiator ticked softly beside the wall. Somewhere outside, a car passed along the street, and the sound faded away. A minute later, the phone vibrated again. Another message appeared. Door opened. 5th floor. That made me sit up. I opened the chat again. Now there were 2 alerts. Door opened. 3rd floor. Door opened. 5th floor. The building has 8 floors. Each one has the same layout. A long corridor with apartments on both sides and a stairwell at the far end. At night, the place is usually quiet enough to hear when someone comes home. But the hallway outside my apartment was silent. My phone vibrated again. Door opened. 6th floor. I watched the screen for several seconds. Then, a moment later, I heard something from below. A door closing somewhere in the building. Not on my floor. Lower. The sound traveled upward through the stairwell like a dull echo. The building fell quiet again. Then my phone vibrated once more. Footsteps detected. Stairwell. A few seconds passed. Then I heard it. Slow steps climbing the stairs. Heavy. Unhurried. One step. Then another. The sound echoed faintly through the stairwell, growing clearer as it moved upward. Then the footsteps stopped, somewhere outside my floor. The silence that followed felt different from before, not empty, just waiting. I stood up and walked toward the front door. The apartment felt colder now that I was standing. I stopped halfway across the living room and listened. Nothing. No voices in the hallway, no footsteps, just the faint hum of the building through the walls. I moved closer to the door and placed my hand against it. The wood felt cool under my palm. For a moment I considered opening it, just enough to look into the corridor, but the messages were still sitting on the screen of my phone. 3rd floor, 5th floor, 6th floor. Each one had appeared before the sound that followed. If the pattern continued, the next message would be about this floor, about this corridor, about the hallway outside my own door. I stepped back. Instead of opening it, I unlocked my phone again and opened the building security camera feed. The hallway outside my apartment appeared on the screen. The camera was mounted high near the ceiling, angled down the length of the corridor toward the stairwell. Every door was closed, the lights were on, nothing moved. For a while, the corridor looked exactly the way it always did at night. Still. Empty. Then the stairwell door shifted. The handle moved slowly. The door opened. Something stepped into the corridor. At first, it looked like a person standing in the doorway. But when it moved fully under the ceiling light, I realized something about its height was wrong. The top of its head was almost level with the light fixture. The ceiling in that hallway is low. Everyone who lives in the building knows that. Tall people already look cramped walking there. This figure looked as if it should not fit inside the corridor at all. Its shoulders were narrow, but its arms were unusually long, hanging lower than they should have for its height. The sleeves of whatever it was wearing stopped short of its wrists, leaving pale skin visible under the corridor light. It stood completely still, not shifting its weight, not adjusting its stance, just standing there in the middle of the hallway. The camera was too far away to show its face clearly, but something about the angle of its head made it look as if it was already looking straight down the corridor, straight toward the apartments, straight toward my end of the floor. Then it began to move. The steps were slow and deliberate, each one placed carefully on the carpet. My phone vibrated again. Door opened. 7th floor, apartment 706. On the camera feed, the handle of apartment 706 moved. It rotated downward slowly by itself. The latch pulled back. Then the door opened. No one stood there. The figure turned toward the apartment and walked down the hallway. When it reached the doorway, it stopped. Then it stepped inside. The door remained open. I kept watching. 10 seconds passed, then 20. Then the figure appeared again. It stepped back into the corridor. Behind it, apartment 706 remained open. My phone vibrated again. Door opened. 7th floor, apartment 708. Further down the corridor, the handle of 708 moved. The door opened slowly by itself. The figure turned toward the new opening. Then it began walking again. 706 was still open behind it. 708 stood open ahead. 2 doorways facing the hallway. The figure stepped inside the second apartment. The door remained open. Several seconds passed. Then the figure stepped back out of 708. It stood in the middle of the corridor again. This time, it turned toward my end of the hallway. My phone vibrated again. Door opening. 7th floor, apartment 712. I stared at the screen. Apartment 712. My apartment. I hadn't touched the door. Slowly, I lifted my eyes from the phone. The handle of my front door began to move. From the other side,